A very good morning to all our attendees. Welcome to the second day of the second MENA Energy Meet. We are ready with our first speaker, His Excellency Khamis Juma Buamim, Chairman at the Dubai Council for Marine and Maritime Industries, speaking on today's topic, searching for the right sustainable global and regional energy mix. Over to you, Your Excellency Khamis.
Thank you and good morning to everybody. Assalamu alaikum. This is a difficult time, we know, the pandemic and the scenario of economics, but nevertheless, there are lots of opportunities and we should drive ahead with trying to make it better. There is huge potentials, but we need to be careful at the same time because things are not going to work the way we want them, unfortunately. So everybody needs to be awake in many ways. And this is, in many ways, when we look ahead, we understand that there is a need for a huge transformation in our working life, economics, for that matter, whether it be a climate change issue, a sustainability issue, or energy mix. But nevertheless, the critical part, which in my book, more important, elevating human suffering at this given time and creating value out of the future that we are in. It's important that we look ahead, and it's important also to visualize what needs to be done in a different manner than maybe many speaks or many undertake. The fact is, life is the most difficult exam in reality, and we fail because we have, or we tend and try to copy each other's. Very strange way of doing an exam. Not, of course, realizing that everyone has a different, if not totally out of the box questions on that paper. The reality is we cannot say to the world, this is how it's going to be, because every environment, every area, every part of this, our global regions has a different needs and a different requirement. And we need to be careful how we cluster everything as one, because it is not the reality. It's all different. For that matter, there is a domino effect theory. Climate change is one of them. There is a chain of reaction, but there are a number of questions that need to be answered. It's unfamiliar territories for most of us because it's a concept. The reality is, yes, there are many issues happening that driven by climate change, but in different region has a different implication. Do we have the capacity and the means to create a sustainable growth under such circumstances? Being, we are in a pandemic scenario, we have difficult human issues to do with whether from the medical side or even the business side, capacities, people losing jobs in many ways. And economy factor is an important thing in a downturn processes. Do we really understand the complexity of all of this and how we can think ahead in a different way than we are at this given time thinking? And this is important. Of course, we always believe in change, innovation, and transformation. And we believe the world will go through this transformation, whether we like it or not. There are many changes, many innovative ideas, and we need to take that in. Of course, people have to ask themselves, the world are going through this strange and familiar transformation in all fronts. How do we cope with it from a health, human, global environment, energy, trade, technology, economy? In many ways, I think it's anyone's guess, difficult. The situation will continue to go through this transition or transformation, and accordingly, we need to be open-minded on how to resolve problems or issues. Our region, unfortunately, is one of those regions that's been under a lot of stress, a lot of difficulties, be it in the geopolitical side, be it in the economies itself, evolution of economies, the driven forces of having oil and gas as the main source of income. So change and sustainability becomes important for us. And we are, if you look around our region, many countries have taken steps to elevate this issue to the highest possible, be it in a government new regulation or be it in a driving forces of new processes in business and how business is done. And therefore, we need to stabilize the region before we talk about economical change or sustainable change, because stability will bring change anyway. Stability will bring growth. Stability will bring a good economical output. And I hope that our leaders continue their drive to elevate these issues at the highest possible one in the processes, be it or in a regulation or be it even in a political scenarios. The pandemic and economy basis in energy, of course, this is important. I had to think a lot about what we are seeing in the oil and gas and we were seeing in our council, especially in the maritime sector. And therefore, it's really an extraordinary, almost 2 years now. We've been under quite a horrible environment. So the question comes, how might the pandemic and its aftermath reshape our economy or reshape our energy sector or create sustainability? It's an important question. And we have a team that looking at these things and how that will transpire and how that will be a driving force for the new business methodology and the new business outlook and the new business, how we're going to do business in the future. Most of countries now looking into the BOT and the PPP processes, and this is elevating and creating value for private sector to come into the government or the public sector. And it's quite an interesting change. Of course, it's a disruptive situation. Will it hinder? Will it change anything? Will it? What is the prospect for rapid clean energy transition? In a global sense, there are many discussions on the transition cycle to 2050, but we doubt that this is achievable because the scenarios, the methodology of economy plus good environment is not happening yet, where human is ready to undertake such a large transformation. So how does this play with the energy mix? We believe the energy mix remain oil and gas, or oil for that matter, will remain the largest part of the energy mix, especially in the petrochemical sector. And we've seen a lot of petrochemical new plants and refineries driving these opportunities. Of course, we think of the pathway out of today's crisis, we have also to ask ourselves what will happen in 5 to 10 years or 15 years. And there are 3 important questions that we are dealing with. Duration and severity of pandemic and its economical impact. It's a critical factor. Unless we know and analyze this, we will not be ready how we will go after crisis. The second part is the human impact. Suffering has been huge. Suffering has been unlimited, in fact, because we lost great and dear friends and family friends. And at the same time, we lost a lot of interaction with the business cycles, as many people lost their jobs or their businesses and they had to shut down. So the question will be how the energy policy makers and the sustainability makers will recover out of this. And that's an interesting question. And we are looking at these scenarios as we're looking ahead. And it's important to see the directive where we are heading in one way, but at the same time, the outlook of the public health, the economy will be an important factor depending on how it turns around. What would be required to reach net zero emission? The fact is, net zero emission doesn't exist. However, reducing emissions will be more than possible, but it depends what type of technology or what type of energy you will use. And does this energy serve across the hemisphere, or it's only limited to certain environments such as electric cars or certain electrical lighting and so on. So it's an interesting impact processes and need to be looked in the bigger picture. Do we have enough resources other than oil, and is it sustainable? Because we have to think of that and how that will impact our future. Of course, the present environment indicators say no in every possible way. GDP growth is still cannot be predicted. We don't know what will happen after the pandemic. When will the pandemic be controlled? Will it be 21, 22 or beyond? Will the economical cycle start returning back? Will it be 2023 or plus? So we're talking about time span that we need to think about. And of course, things will come gradually, but we need to think seriously about what does gradually mean. A longer pandemic, of course, will be a terrible thing because it will be slows everything down, including oil demand and of course, or energy demand that we've seen over a century. Delayed recovery beyond or to 2023, what would that really entails in the bigger picture? And it's important to understand. Net zero by 2050, of course, this is an important question, but as I said, in certain regions, that's not going to be a priority, despite the world drive, because certain countries would like to see growth back. They would like to see moving away from darkness to having more electricity, opportunities, business things. So we need to think how we cater for undeveloped countries and how that will impact them, because a blanket regulation, global blanket regulation, will have a problem for undeveloped countries, and this is important. Of course, it's an important issue that we need to look into how citizens, be it energy companies, investors, and others, will be taking this on board and how that will be materialized long term. We are seeing, unfortunately, many investors or funds or banks demand now that anything they will fund or will invest in, it has to be green or environmentally or a climate change processes in it. It's a strange environment. I don't think this is really the right way, but that's what we have today because it's driven by a green environment, or as we call it, something green. Now, looking ahead also, we have a mega global crisis. The debt has reached phenomenal numbers. And of course, this needs to be resolved as global debt mounting. Countries are borrowing too much or unable to borrow in certain cases. And this limits the governments or the financial situation in certain countries, if not in every country. So we have a huge debt and we need to think what should be done. My conclusion is that global debt should be halved across the board, and we can make a better new thinking about it, because otherwise economies will not be sustainable. And this is if we look into the sustainability cycle. Moreover, take home, I think the pandemic will have a lasting scars It's unfortunate in many ways, emotional, be it economical, be it in many economies and strange environment, that we will still be unable to accelerate the pace of change. It'll be a hindrance. Renewable, without a doubt, have been taken off, especially solar leading the way on that. But still, a slowdown in the improvement of access to electricity and a risk of underinvestment could create a huge potential risk, because the debt level is high, and how we're going to reinvest and how we're going to invest and what is the return is going to play a big part on what to be. The crisis, of course, squeezed oil and gas revenues and investment out. This is dangerous, because our economy still requires the oil and gas sector to be forward and be, but that's important now to think how that, and they are changing or aligning themselves to new technologies, which is an advantageous, of course, and hopefully that will help to bring certain remedial in certain areas of oil and gas. The net zero ramping up, of course, clean technology deployment and continue to reduce cost will help a lot, especially through innovation. And we look into hydrogen and other low carbon fuels, battery storage, climate undertaking will, anything to do with capture of technology, capturing the emission will be a great advantage on this cycle of balancing the global growth versus reduction of carbon emission. There are, of course, unfortunately, no shortcuts. We are in a profound change, and accordingly, we are guided by policies that need to be now more fluent into measuring the situation. And of course, the choice will always be for investors, citizens, government, and so on, and companies, but most of all for governments to take advantage of this change and see how they can modify many of their global outlook and help certain regions to develop while others need to do more than the rest. And I think this is going to be an important factor to look ahead. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very, very much. And thank you for being with us, and thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Excellency Khamis, thank you very much for your time and presentation. So, and we wish you and your team all the best through this pandemic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.